Welcome back, everybody, to the show. I am your host, as always, Jay Villain, aka That Villain Jay, and with me, as always, is my co-host of the Black Council here, the numbest of skulls, Numbskull, and we're here with the Black Council podcasting goodness for your pleasure. We are doing it live and in person, and also not live, but it's pre-recorded. But if you're here, you could be watching the instant chat, which usually either me or Numbskull are watching. We're usually in the chat generally when it goes up. So you can always leave your comments. You can leave it in the chat, and you can say hi here. And today's topic, without mincing too many words, is going to be a big one, guys. I don't know how interested, I don't know how many people, but basically, what's up with Standard? We got a lot of changes down the pipe coming. We have now 3-year Standard rotation being announced. There will be no eggs this year. There will be no egg cracking. There will be no rotation this year. It will be put off for another year. And bans will be handled. A bunch of news, a bunch of crazy stuff is happening. We're going to go over all of it. We're going to go all of the things. Hopefully you're a Standard player. If you're not a Standard player, if you're more of a whatever, but interesting still, you know, what was going on with that whole thing. Of course, we're going to get, I play a lot of Standard. I probably play more Standard than Numbskull. Numbskull jumps back and forth between Alchemy and Standard, but I think he's still got a pretty good handle on it. What would you say your rate is percentage wise?
Well, especially like this past week, I've actually been drafting a lot.
Oh yeah.
I had the opportunity to do some coaching for draft, so I was kind of brushing up on my draft game a little bit. Which I do coaching, by the way, if people didn't know that, in constructed and limited. So feel free to.
He does coaching. I don't, because I'm real bad at this game.
My coaching can also be literally just me making you a deck. So inquire within, and we can make it done. Not to plug myself too hard, but that is a thing for anyone interested. But yeah, I've been drafting, so that's like kind of in tune with Standard, because it's obviously like, you know, like the newest set. But then I have been doing Standard events. I got a play-in point the other day, so that was cool. So I have been, yeah, like this past week or so, I'd say I drafted a good bit, and then I've been doing like play-in games, like play-in events in Standard for like the last week. I'll do like a couple games of Alchemy for like my rank, and then I'll go and gamble some gems or gold on a play-in event. So I have been doing a decent amount of Standard this past week. It's been fun. I enjoy Standard. I plan to play Standard after the rotation, which one thing, if people didn't know that, you know, since we're talking about it, Alchemy will rotate in September when the rotation.
I think that was a buried lead, and that may push some people into Alchemy if they don't irrationally hate it. Alchemy is getting the spin. Standard is not. Despite Alchemy and Standard being very closely related, they are different. They are distinct. And so that might be something. That might be interesting. That might push me back into Alchemy. I would say that I'm probably about 80% Standard and maybe 15 Alchemy and 5 Brawl.
That's reasonable.
Brawl or historic brawls, because I do like that every now and again, especially when an event pops up, and a sprinkle dinkle of draft here and there, limited or whatever.
I do like maybe 10% Explorer, and then maybe like 35 Standard, and then like 45 Alchemy, and then draft thrown in there as well, especially more draft lately.
But we are definitely both, you know, invested in the health of Standard. We're not Commander players. We're not like EDH, who didn't even know that you talk to Commander players. They're like, you could put 4 of things in a deck. You can put 4 of things in a deck. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some of the rule changes and what's coming up, and we're going to give you our ban predictions, because there's a lot of stuff going on. They talked about it the next live stream, the next update. They're going to bring down the hammer on a bunch of stuff, which is good. Honestly, I'm going to put my stake out there. They need to. If they're not doing rotation, they need to control the format with bans or restrictions. We'll get into all of that. But first, I want to say come join us at the Black Council. We're having discussions about this in our private Patreon. You can get exclusive access to our page, to our exclusive Discord, if you join our Patreon. Patreon.com/the Black Council. You can submit a little bit of money, as little as $1 an episode. This is how you support us here at the Black Council. We are an all-inclusive podcast, and we are a roundtable. We like to hear from our new people. I think we just got a new patron. We're going to a special shout out to, I don't want to say his full name. I don't want to dox him, but I'm going to give a special shout out to Frank, who is a new Black Council member who just joined. But yes, we want you to join us. You get exclusive access to our Patreon. You get to vote on certain stuff. You get early access to the episodes. And we are still organizing our tournament. We've been having issues because, frankly, there's a tournament every freaking weekend. There's a pizza box. There's a rebellion. There's been something. Then it was Mother's Day. Then it was the set release. So it has been crazy. But we still have it coming. Don't worry. It's still up and coming. I'm out of town this weekend. So unfortunately, I'll probably have to be next weekend as we're going to do it. So we're going to do some exclusive things for everyone. And of course, you can just help support us create content here. Of course, I'm at twitch.tv/thatvillainj, twitch.tv/num_skull. If you want to see somebody get mana flooded, you come see me. If you want to see mythic level gameplay, you go see Numbskull. So those are your two choices. I hit a 10 card flood the other day. I'm not bragging, but I did hit 10 cards in a row, 10 banners in a row.
Impressive. It's impressive.
I am currently Platinum 1, so I'm about to get out of Plat Hell into Diamond, to the clear sweet waters of Diamond. Numbskull, you are number 8 ranked currently in the world. What are you?
No, I didn't play last night, and I was at 1350 when I stopped playing ranked. What that would have been? Monday night? Because we're recording this on a Wednesday night. So I'm probably like back into the percents, to be honest with you. I'm loading it up right now. Ooh. I am 99%, which means I'm probably like 1700, because like the 16 to 1800s section is like 98 and 99%. So I'm probably like 1700 something. And then if I play one game, I'll go back to probably where I was. Okay. So whenever I stream later, or hopefully I can get a couple wins and maybe I can crack top 1200 or something tonight. We'll see. I've only really been going for top 1200 lately. As another state of the game itself is, they really only have been, I don't want to say they're catering or pandering to limited, but it feels like almost all of the competitive events on Arena where you could qualify for further competitive competitions, like working towards Pro Tour or Arena Championship. Almost all of them lately have been or will be limited or sealed or something like that. And I don't see the point in grinding all that when I could just do top 1200, have less stress, and then just take my play-in points and then wait until it's a format that I would want to play.
Yeah, I mean, you're a constructed guy. I don't know why they would.
So why am I grinding to top 250 just to try to play limited when that's not even what I do? I'll wait till it's like standard for that month, and then I'll have like maybe like 100 or 120 playing points, and I get like 5 or 6 cracks at qualifying. So it's I don't know. It's a little easier that way. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah. So, and then it's also just nice to have play-in points. You know what I mean? If you ever want to, because you can, whenever you do the event, the more wins you get, you just cash out gems. Yeah. So I'm also, you can convert them into gems too. So instead of getting that token and then like getting shit on and limited, I'm converting these into gems and actually like, I don't want to say getting paid to play the game, but you know what I mean. I'm farming. I'm actually farming instead of just like getting one token, getting shit on, and then getting like very little to no gems for it, and then not qualifying for anything. So I think I like this better, but maybe If there's a month where like the next thing is like standard or alchemy, I might grind harder that month. But until it's a format that I enjoy, I don't see the need to grind every month, you know?
Yeah. No, I get it. I don't know if I'm of course I'm gonna get diamond. I've been really, the only thing that's been interesting to me in the game right now has been janking, has just been doing nonsense, crazy builds, and just that's what's really been super interesting for me. I have not been playing very hard competitive. I've hit some really good competitive decks, but I've mostly just really been playing with the mechanics. I don't know if people saw, but I did the Chandra, Itali, Breach the Multiverse, Invoke Despair.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
You can theoretically, and I did it where you can play all of them twice in a turn. So you have a Chandra, you play a Break the Multiverse, that plays an Itali plays a Chandra, and then it just keeps like, or you hit Invoke Despair twice. Anyways, yeah. So I've done some just like broken stuff, and I'm gonna push to Diamond. Maybe I'll push to Mythic. I haven't been really feeling the motivation to, especially. And here's how I'm gonna wrap it all back into. We're gonna wrap it, especially with the stagnation that I've been feeling that we're getting in Standard right now. Especially with the state of Standard right now, it is a slog pushing up the Standard queue right now. I think a lot of people are feeling that. So I think that is, we got to diagnose the problem first. Wizards obviously has acknowledged the problem. Standard play is diminishing in stores. It was the premier format for a long time. Now Commander is the premier format, and they're trying to revitalize the Standard set. They're saying that if we expend it more, if we say it's for 3 years, your cards are valuable for longer. You don't have to rotate them out so frequently. People would buy into the set more. They won't get useless cards if they're a hardcore Standard player going forward. They'll feel more included. Are we diagnosing the problem correctly? What would you say? I mean, what do you see as the main issue in charging up Standard, hitting that ladder, and what is slowing it down? What is making it not fun, and what is making people not interested in paper and in arena, you know?
Yeah, it's a lot of it is the best deck being so good for so long. 2 to 3 prominent colors that just kind of always seem to dominate: black, red, and blue. Obviously I like playing Rakdos decks. I think the Grixis decks are a little annoying because I don't like counter spells. I like, I love playing my mono black. But yeah, it just seems like there are, some cards within those that they're just so overpowered, and part of it also is we've had this power creep within the Standard rotation itself. Let's look at the cards that came out at the beginning of this current Standard, like Innistrad. And then let's look at the cards that are out now that we say are crazy overpowered. Let's compare Sholdred to the 4-drops that came out in Innistrad. Let's compare Fable to the 3-drops that came out in Innistrad. Although Capenna wasn't that long after Innistrad, I will say that, but I feel like that's where like Capenna's like really where it started. It was like, okay, a couple of these cards are crazy, and then Dominaria did that too, and then it just kind of kept going. But one thing I thought was weird was, and we talked about, with the Aftermath cards, how we were overall unimpressed.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak for you, but I felt like you and I didn't really feel like we there was nothing groundbreaking.
No game changers.
Yeah, and dare I don't know how many of you saw the tweet, but dare I share my screen right now of a deck that I ran and got top 8 in Pizza Box with before March of the Machine came out, and am still using to get these play-in points. And I haven't changed.
Let's take a look.
I haven't changed a single thing in this deck.
Yeah, there was nothing that I needed to add immediately. Even the
I
stuff
think
that
you might
looked
have
good.
to.
Oh, I
You
have
might
to
have
share.
to
Oh, I
add it
gotta
to
add
the
it. There we
thing.
go. All right, I'm in
Yeah, this
control.
is the
There we
deck. I
go.
mean, I got top. I don't want to like brag about it, but like I'm using it as an example here, like literally of my own, and I obviously like know it pretty well. But all these, none of these cards have March of the Machine in them, and I ran this, got top 8 in pizza box. The first standard event I did, I got 6 wins. The next one I got 7 wins, so I almost got playing points in both, and I got the whole way there the second time. But it's like, nothing was strong enough to crack into this deck. The only thing I would consider is Fiora, but this version of this standard deck, it's a little lower to the ground.
Yeah.
With the AMC at 2.6, where a lot of my decks are like 3 for those mono black control. This one is a little bit more aggro, I will say. It has that kind of balance of aggro and mid range to it, where we can kind of go mid rangey in the sideboard if we need to. But I'm playing against these mom cards, and I'm playing a deck that's over a month old right now.
Yeah.
You see the date. This is I made the deck on this day,
4/16 of
Pizza Box. Yeah, that was when I played this in Pizza Box. I made it that. I'm irresponsible and make my tournament decks that morning when I play on Arena. And I just see what happens.
That's the only way to fly, man. It's the only way to fly.
Yeah, that's how I do things. I work better under pressure. So yeah. But yeah, there's that. Let me hear. I'll stop presenting so we can see ourselves. But yeah, just putting that in perspective. It feels like the meta didn't change with this drop, and I think that other than, okay, we have Atali, we have Chandra, we have Breach the Multiverse, we have I don't know what else is like that strong. Atraxa. Well, no, it was Atraxa. Atraxa was in the last set.
Atraxa was in the last set. Yeah, we have
Atali and Breach, and it feels like
I think the Praetors. I think probably
some of the Praetors. Yeah,
Vorinclex is pretty good. I see him.
Yeah.
I don't see Elish Norton that once. Of course, we see Sheldred at both versions. Coppercoat Vanguard, I would say, was the biggest banger for aggro decks, because that pushed aggro soldiers up again. I would say that's
that guy.
Yeah.
That's reasonable. And then there is that there's Incubate now.
Yeah,
which that's a thing. I will say that's a thing.
That sure does exist.
It definitely exists. It's a thing. You have to worry about it. It almost got to the finals on the Pro Tour, so that's a thing.
Yeah.
But what we're bringing it down to here is maybe you say Atali needs to be banned, but Breach is just a crazy reanimator spell, realistically.
Yeah.
And it's in my opinion appropriately priced, and I mean mana cost, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a thing. And then Chandra's 6 mana, so it's like, all right, well, whatever. You had crazy 6 mana spells before, and it's 6 mana, so that's a thing. And then so to me, and Atali's 7 mana, so to me it's like, yeah, we have some bombs in these sets that kind of like round it out a little bit. But they do ultimately still kind of feels like they're going to make those 3 colors still just stronger. And then that makes Fable seem worse. It makes Invoke seem more crazy. It makes these Rakdos decks seem even more unbeatable. And the Grixis decks equally. So I think it came as a response to... And I don't know if it's the player's fault for not figuring out something, or if it's just the way shit worked out that, hey, these few colors are just too strong, and this was the only appropriate way for Wizards to respond to attempt to save the format. I'm going to say it like that, because some people are calling this the end of Standard. So,
yikes. I think that's a little apocalyptic.
I think that when you make a fundamental change like that, people are always going to get like kind of hyperbolic, and you're going to have an extreme over here, an extreme over here, and everybody's going to have an opinion, and there's going to be people who take it both ways either way, and then kind of people on either side, they're going to make up all parts of your spectrum that you see, but ultimately and I always say, and this is kind of how we still feel about Alchemy too. It's Arena Wizards will say something and make an announcement and say, okay, we're gonna do this, and this is gonna happen, and we're gonna say, how does it affect everything? And one of my biggest things is, well, it all depends on how they manage it going forward. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, Alchemy is gonna be great. They're gonna ban stuff, they're gonna rebalance stuff, and this, you know, they're gonna make sure nothing's too strong. And okay, well, now they're not rebalancing shit, they're not banning shit, and they're making cards that are just way too ridiculous, and they're doing the opposite of what they said they were gonna do. So I always like I don't want to use the cliche phrase of like take it with a grain of salt, but I feel like maybe you want to look at it like that, because it's in the sense of like, okay, well, how much are they going to yearly bans?
How much are they going to follow through on this?
How are they going to? And I get it. This is a very concrete thing. An extra year is just like, you can't really. There's no room to work around there. It's an extra year. It's an extra, 50% longer time frame. I understand that. But it also, like, with the once a year bans, okay, how crazy are those going to be? They're going to have emergency bans. We're going to have a ban on the 29th of May. And that, I guess, will be the annual for this year.
Yeah.
But they'll still do emergency for cards like Oko and things like that. So that's a thing. But, what are they going to ban? I think before you find out what they are and aren't going to ban, you can't even really say how you feel about Standard. Because at 3 years of Standard, if Fable's there, you might change your tune.
Yeah.
If you feel like Invoke is your biggest setback in playing this set, playing against that card, and Invoke gets banned, you might feel like now you have a reason to play it, and you're going to enjoy this next year and 4 months or whatever, So I think that's a big part of it. And I think that me personally, I can't fully tell you how I feel about it until we hear these bans. My initial thought personally, and it's still like ultimately maybe not really even a good thing, but I'm happy that I get to keep playing with Invoke if it doesn't get banned. I'm happy that I get to keep playing with Graveyard Trespasser, with these other cards that may rotate out that I enjoy playing with. You know what I mean? I'm happy about that. But also, like, I just showed you a deck that's technically 1 month stale, if you will, and it's performing beyond adequately at an above average rate, above average win rate. And I'm not adding any new cards to it, which shows you that that's kind of a sign the format is a little stagnant, So, I'm cool with it, because I would like, I play Graveyard Trespasser and Explorer. It's in my Pioneer deck that I'm working on. I'm going to be playing Graveyard Trespasser for the long-term foreseeable future, so I don't mind it. But at the same time, I get it that Standard's not supposed to be a format where we keep playing the same cards for forever.
Yeah.
So maybe need some innovation, but we also need they have to ban the right cards. And I don't even know if I'm really able to say what are the right cards. Do we say ban Fable? Maybe. Do we say ban Invoke in response? Maybe. Do we say, I don't know. And I really wish that Aftermath or March of the Machines, while there are some strong cards in there, I wish they could have given Standard the proper leveling out that it needed. And I almost thought it was going to happen, and it just didn't. So yeah, I'm really unsure. I'm really unsure.
I'm of the opinion that something was wrong. Something was not 100% correct, and I've said that probably because I'm a big time Standard. I used to play Standard almost exclusively. Even when EDH was taking off, I still was like, all right, well, let's see what the upcoming set is. I was looking towards the future, I would say that we have this issue, and I've talked about that. We have this Reanimator meta issue. We have a kind of a Reanimator control meta issue where the most effective deck is never an over-the-top. It's never a mid-range. It's lock the game until you can spam 50 power cards. And we always seem to kind of settle right there. And you know, the argument that I always see is like, well, some of these cards are real expensive, they're difficult to play.
Yeah.
In standard, I feel like anybody is always going to figure out. I feel like Wizards designers never think about, they look at a card on its face, like literally they're like, all right, well, this costs 7 and it's a bunch of different mana. Atrax is tricky to cost because it's so expensive and it requires 4 different mana. Who would be able to cast Atraxa once every turn? That's crazy. And it's like, of course you're going to cast it.
And then they're like, here's an instant speed reanimation spell.
Yeah, of course they're gonna. Here's a card that lets you draw cards and then put cards in your graveyard specifically. You know,
yeah.
It's like, I know it's hard designing. The designers have a hard job to do. Like, I'm not trying to say that, but it's like they don't give the reanimator combos a thought. They just go, oh well, this is expensive, so that's balanced. And I've said before, like, cost has nothing to do with card balance anymore. There's too many ways to easily spam cost-effective things. You know, and the thing is you have kind of the problem. I used the baseball analogy the other night. You have kind of the problem where that meta of just board locking, heavy control. I'm going to kill everything. I'm going to counterspell everything. I'm going to board wipe until I can play 50. Until I can spam a power card over and over again. It's super effective and it works, and it's boring to play and it's boring to watch. You know, like, it's not even spectator wise. If you're just trading counter spells, it's like watching a baseball game and everyone is getting up and bunting and getting on first. Yeah, that would work, but who wants to see that and who wants to do that? Like, you know, if bunting just took over MLB, would everyone just bunt and get onto first? Nobody try to swing for the fences. Nobody try to, don't even try to hit a double or a triple. Just bunt and get onto first. And that's just such a weird way. That's like such a weird place for the meta to land on. It just gets boring, because if you're trying to play aggro, if you're trying to play combo mid-range or any other kind of format tempo, you're kind of just going to get board wiped out of oblivion, and then somebody's going to play Atraxa 6 times. And listen, like I said, I did it. I played the deck where I played Breach of the Multiverse 2 times in a row, and then I played Invoke Despair 2 times in a row, and it's effective. I mean, you have to kind of ramp to it. You kind of have to get there, but the balancing act is really tricky. And I think that when you have cards that you have decks and you have cards that have been, like you said, going back to kind of your problem, they are in decks from the day they got printed to today, and they have never left. You can run an enchantment deck from almost entirely made out of Kamigawa cards, 95% Kamigawa cards, and blast your way to Diamond and almost push Mythic with it. That's how effective they are. And when you have some stuff coming out that just doesn't affect that or isn't plausible to play on a regular basis, you've got a stagnant format, because you have these new sets falling flat. I remember when Crimson Vow came out and the meta had centered so badly around Alrund's Epiphany, the game was functionally dead. You couldn't get in a match without Alrund's Epiphany, and that's
why they made Alchemy.
Yeah. And they made it, and they took so long to ban it. It took forever to ban it because of Divide by Zero and Alrund's Epiphany. The game was functionally locked. It was, you could not, and so people were leaving. The only people staying were people playing Alrund's Epiphany. So you had a 50 to 60 to 70% meta saturation of the same, who could play it faster. And that is a problem. And that was the meta when Vow dropped, and Vow, at least in my view, Vow tanked. Nobody played Vow. The viewerships for my channel, you can see a crater. Like during a new set release of Innistrad Vampires, Innistrad, one of the most popular locations to play, one of the most popular settings, nobody was interested because, well, how is this going to beat Alrund's Epiphany? And the answer is it's not. They're going to lock the board until they can hit Alrund's 3 times in a row. So
and that might be part of the reason why we feel like maybe this last set wasn't as strong, because it's taken them so long to do necessary bans. And I mean, when wasn't Meat Hook the last standard ban?
I believe so, yeah.
And how long ago was that?
Ooh,
that's more than 6 months, correct?
October.
That was like last. Okay, it was like right after last rotation. Yeah. Okay, so we're working on 8 months. No, 7 months. 7 months of no Meat Hook. And you're just now talking about doing bans again. And then you're going to say that you're only going to do it once a year, when we were talking about banning cards not named Meat Hook, that we're still talking about banning cards with that name since you banned Meat Hook and before you banned Meat Hook.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, that's once again letting this go for too long. This is unfettered. Did you ban the wrong card? Quite possibly, especially because they were like, oh, well, you can't remember their reasoning for banning Meat Hook? Oh, well, there's, you know, these aggro decks don't have a chance. Okay, well, now what aggro deck has a chance?
Yeah. You know, the mono red low to the ground.
What has a chance now?
Yeah. And even mono red's falling out of favor because, you know, there's cheaper. You have Spell Pierce. You have just so much knockback, Fading Hope. You have so many cheap options.
Still have Path of Peril, which I used to shit on mono red decks.
Yeah.
You know,
there's ways
you have that card, Glistening Deluge too, and you still have the one. What is it? Choking Miasma, where it's
Choking Miasma is a good
creatures
one.
Get -2/-2, which is actually cheaper than doing -2/-2 on a Meat Hook. In terms of mana, because Meat Hook would be 4 mana to do that. That card's 3 mana. So it's like, did you really need to ban Meat Hook? You know,
the reason that I think that
I don't want to dwell on that, but you know,
the reason I think they did it is because they knew that what was coming that Meat Hook was really gonna screw up. Probably a lot of token decks. They had a lot of soldier token decks coming out. They had Incubate.
Well, I'm Poison. Yeah,
Poison. Yeah.
Stuff like that, and like Dominaria. I don't know. I forget the smaller stuff with Dominaria. But yeah, I will say that part of the reason they also didn't like it is it was the residual life gain, and you lose life from it. They didn't like the residual, so that I can understand. Which obviously that helped the mono black stay alive a lot longer and made it more feasible. But you know, whatever.
Oh, I just looked. We talked about the banning of Meat Hook in episode 7 of the Black Council.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So
we were pissed.
Yeah, we were. I mean, we were both heavy Meat Hook players. I get people.
I was so mad because I had him in paper. And I just paid $70 for him. You know, I finally sold him back to the LGS for like 40 a pop, and
no,
and, you know, licked my wounds.
So I still, and I'll tell you something funny. I'll still get comments to this day that people will look at my old decks or even my new decks, and they'll leave a comment saying, "This is great, but it would be great with Meat Hook Massacre in it. Why don't you add it?" And I'm like, "It's banned in standard."
Oh, it would be, my friend. It would.
Yeah, and I'm like, I know it's a really good card, and they're like, "Well, why don't you just not play?" And of course, they're just like, "Well, why don't you just don't play standard? Just play somewhere you can put it in there." And I'm like,
if you took that deck and you put it in historic, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, that's the problem.
We talk about how bad standard is, but have you seen historic?
Yeah, the thing is you kind of go into historic knowing what's up. It's like going to Waffle House at 3 a.m. You already know what you're in for.
Yeah, low expectations.
Yeah,
having a good time,
getting infinite locked on turn 3. Yeah,
you're just like happy to be there. And maybe like, you know, maybe some crazy shit happens. Like maybe you see the staff fight off an angry patron.
Who knows?
You know.
So,
but yeah, that's, and I guess, you know, maybe we're, you know, they made standards so that there wouldn't be like the brokenness of these other decks, and it's easier to get newer players in the game. Maybe we're spoiled with standard too. Like
maybe we are. I don't know.
It could be like, screw you, go play Pioneer, go play Modern. You know. Go play this, go play that, and you tell us if you think standard's too hard.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what I mean? So,
well, it's not. The thing is,
man.
I feel like fundamentally it not being an infinite format. You know, it's supposed to be always. It's the topsoil. It's always getting churned.
Yeah.
I have two. Okay, so I guess we'll talk about the main thing. Cut to the chase. How do you feel about the longer rotation? You think it's good? You think it's bad? Or you really just mixed on it?
Well, yeah, that's where I'm ultimately pretty ambivalent, and also, like I was saying with like, you know, I like that I get to play some of the cards that I enjoy longer, but I also don't like the fact. I obviously I like the fact that I'm winning with my deck that I'm using right now, but I know that in the back of my mind that ultimately it's bad for the game that a deck that's a month old and doesn't have any of the cards in the new set is, I don't want to say dominating, but doing as well as it is, you know. I know that's not good for what it says about this format, and I also don't want to lean too far towards one side until I hear what they're going to ban and what they aren't going to ban, because that's going to be what really, like, all these people who feel some type of way, I bet you a lot of them change their tune once they announce what's banned. I bet you some people who are happy about it, they're going to see what gets banned and they're going to hate it, and vice versa. And some people are going to stay on both sides, but people are going to a considerable amount of people will change their tune on May 29th. And that's where, like, you know, it's kind of like they, like, let's say you're at your job and they change, like, I don't know, let's say they change how you get paid. Something like that. Do you know what I mean? That happened at my one job. We went from getting my previous job where I ran a phone store. We went from getting commission and hourly to all commission. But the commission, you got more commission so that it would, like, make up for your loss. But in a slow month, you really felt it because it was only commission. You know what I mean? So we were happy about it because we saw the opportunity, but then we kind of saw how it played out and we were like, oh, this isn't as good.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to let shit play out for a little bit. You might not even really be able to fully make your decision on this until September.
I think we're going to need play. And I think it's also, like you said, we're going to have to see what is banned and how they handle the bans. I would say I'm a little bit more darkly pessimistic. I'm not sure. I'm reserving. I'm not apocalyptic where people are like, that's it. It's over with. I'm selling my clothes and I'm wearing ashcloth sack and sackcloth and ashes, and I'm gonna go live in a cave. Like, you know, I am gonna I'm being ambivalent with a bit of a dark cloud on the horizon, because it's not often that the right choice is made. I'd say the wrong choice is made more frequently than the correct one, and at least in my experience. And at least in these past couple of years with Wizards, they've made some not to criticize them. I love them as a company, been playing forever, but some people were making some bad choices. So that brings us to the topic of bans. I want to get into some prognosticating here. Let's scry a little bit. Let's use our scry function.
Let's surveil.
Scrying and surveilling. I'm going to put up a little thing that says scrying and surveilling.
With J and Num.
Yeah, with J and Num. That's our enemy podcast that's blue. Scry and surveil, the Blue Council. Anyways, what do you think? I'm going to let you go first. I'm going to let you get first grab.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think is going to get the axe? Who do you think the ban hammer is going to fall on? Give me your top 3 contenders. And who do you think is completely safe in people? Because people are calling for bans on, like, everything. People are saying Sheldred's out of there. They need to get rid of Sheldred. That's the most broken card.
Well, this is your chance to just blurt out any card that you don't like.
Yeah. Basically, yeah.
So like that's part of it. I would say personally, I do think I can't, maybe I won't say it definitively if it gets banned, but like what's on the chopping block, Fable, it's got to be on the chopping block.
Of course, that's a given. Yeah.
You know, like, because let's look at what they gave Meat Hook about a year,
and
they said, "All right, it's enough.
It's enough."
They've given Fable over a year now, but there were similar gripes. Well, actually, if they banned it at the end of May, they would have given it like a little over. They would have given it like a year and like 2 or 3 months, and Meat Hook got about like a year and a month. So that's about on par with time frame. So that could be, you know what I mean? Maybe they didn't ban Fable back then because they wanted to at least give it a full year to see if it stayed a problem, and it really is just snowballed. But so yeah, Fable. I do think Invoke Despair's in the chopping block. I think that there's going to be more than one ban, and I think that they're going to do that to appease people, because they're going to say that if you get rid of Fable, then it makes Invoke Despair too strong. But that could also be the reason that they say that both of those cards are, how do I say it? Both of those cards are like the kryptonite for another. Invoke Despair deals with the Fable and you get to draw a card, but Fable makes your Invoke Despair not as despairing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's an argument to be made that the cards actually, in terms of how they offset they actually offset the brokenness of one another, because Invoke Despair, when a Fable's out, just turns into, I paid 5 mana and I dealt with your Fable stuff, and now
everything.
Now you lose 2 life and I draw a card.
Yeah.
So it turns into, basically, in terms of like for like, it turns into pay 2 mana, you lose 2 life, I draw a card, which is kind of regular in regards to the power level of things. Do you know what I mean? Because and when I say 2 mana instead of 5 mana, it's because Fable is 3 mana, so I subtract the mana cost of that. We dealt with everything that Fable did, and you know what I mean. As long as I play it the very next turn and you didn't get any extra value out of it, I effectively dealt with the 3 mana that you spent with my own 3 mana, and then I draw a card, and that's my residual benefit. That's what I get for paying 2 more mana to do that. So, and I think that's where that's what it makes Invoke turn into, and that's the argument for the fact that the 2 cards need to coexist. But it also should become partly, well, we don't want to have to force you to play black in every deck to deal with the best card in the format. So that's a thing too. So you have really good arguments on both sides. I could see both going, and I could see neither going. But I think if one goes, then the other goes, personally. And then I think Wandering Emperor is going to be okay. I think Sholdred's okay. I feel like those are the biggest two.
You want to know what my surprise one I think is going to catch a lot of people, because and here's the reason. Maybe I'm crazy. My guess, my number one guess, for just ubiquity, that it's literally in every single deck, Reckoner Bankbuster.
Oh, yeah.
I think
I could see that.
I think Reckoner Bankbuster is if not public enemy number 1, public enemy number 2.
Yeah, I've heard people call for Fable and Bankbuster.
Yeah,
I've heard people call for all 3. Yeah, that's a really good choice there. And maybe they don't ban Fable or Invoke, and they just ban the Bankbuster.
I think that
everybody has a chance to play this. This affects everybody. Maybe not everybody equally, but everyone's affected, because your Azorius control decks even play Bankbuster.
Everything. If you want card draw, if you want, it gives you a. I mean, it literally does everything.
It gives you mana fixing. It gives you a creature. It's a good 2-drop. You know, you can go aggro with it. You can go control with it. It's used in other formats. It's used in Pioneer. It's used in Historic and Explorer. So like, you know, it's not only good in Standards. It's used in Alchemy.
Yeah.
So
it can go in every field. Yeah.
Yep.
I think Bankbuster
even played in your EDH deck. You know.
Oh yeah, no, I think Bankbuster, and first of all, artifact removal is not easy. Artifact removal is not something that, if you're talking about standard best of one, not
available in every color.
Not available in every color, and who just normally, aside from maybe green or red, where it's already written on the card.
Maybe white. White has some cards, but not.
Yeah,
all,
well, that's just generally exile a permanent. Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
not easy to get rid of. It is very easy to cheese that 4/4 for free. You get 3 free card draws off of it, and when you're done drawing 3 free cards, you get a free creature and a treasure token. Like, man, and like you said, just the ubiquity of it. The reason, and I personally think Invoke is safe. I know people don't like Invoke, but Invoke in certain circumstances is functionally useless. If you have a large, if their opponent has a large board, Invoke basically does nothing. If they're going wide, you can play Invoke against like a wide board of a Selesnya enchantments or even Selesnya counters. I'll lose my 1/1 soldier and my Tokazia's Welcome. Okay, yeah, sure, fine, whatever. So there are situations where it doesn't hurt as bad as the power levels. So I feel like Invoke is probably okay. I know people who don't play black don't like it. That's basically, you have the.
Oh, I don't like that card. And another thing is, didn't they just print a card for 1 mana that literally counters Invoke and it's a white, where it gives you hexproof?
Yeah, it gives you hexproof. There's also that one that there's a blue card that you counter it and then you cast it. So
yeah, there are like I think a lot of decks have ways to deal with it. Like mono green, you could make the argument where it's ineffective against mono green because you're gonna have so many creatures it doesn't matter.
Yeah. If you're
By
running
turn 5, you should have enough creatures that it's irrelevant.
If I'm going to use the real-time strategy terminology here, if you're running tall, meaning you have 1 power creature and 1 really super great enchantment, and you
maybe
have
1 good planeswalker
and 1 good planeswalker, you're in trouble. If you've diversified, all I want is Kaya, Itali, and Fable. and Fable. Yeah, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna clear your whole board out, but don't play that if you don't want to get cleared out by that 1 card. You know, so I feel like it's probably safer than people think. I think Sheldred's probably safer. People hate.
They hate her, but also like now you have Atali, and I feel like people worry about Atali more than Sheldred now.
Yeah, I doubt, just from a business standpoint, I doubt they're gonna ban any of the new cards.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Sheldred hasn't had a full year, and who else? Because Sheldred came in with rotation, and another thing, like you were talking about, Invoke being functionally useless. Let's not forget that Wedding Announcement just got a 1-year extension as well. Which
exactly.
That makes Invoke feel really bad when you play against a deck that has Wedding Announcements.
Yeah, and the thing is I think probably what makes Invoke the most powerful is that 1 destroy, sacrifice, and enchantment. There's almost no enchantment removal for black. We used to have, what was that one? Bite down, eaten alive? No, not eaten alive.
It made you sacrifice an enchantment. It was
or the one you lost life equals casting cost.
Feed the Swarm.
Feed the Swarm. Yeah, that was the only real way.
Is it like Debt to the Kami or something like that?
Yeah, I think there was. I don't think anyone plays that. Though.
It makes you like it makes the opponent sack an enchantment, which some of these enchantment decks that's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Target opponent exiles an enchantment they control. It's 3 mana though, so it's like, come on, that's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's that, but Feed the Swarm was good because it was 2 mana, but you lost a lot of life, so it could have ended up bad in a lot of situations, and people were playing Debt to the Kami because there wasn't really another option. Like that was the issue.
Because I know it's saved my life a couple of times. I've been like, I gotta get rid of it, and they only have 1 enchantment out, and it's locking out my Sheldred. And I said, this is gonna do it. My Sheldred's gonna come back.
Well, and a fair trade there is, hey, we're for black we're gonna give you the enchantment removal, but we're not gonna give you artifact removal. And to me, that's fair. You get one or the other because you can kill everything else. There's got to be something that you can't kill. You know what I mean? So that's fine. So yeah, I feel like it's reasonable for us to have that because, like you said, there aren't really a lot of effective ways to deal with enchantments. You still don't even get to target it, so you still might not even hit the enchantment that you actually want to hit. But whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's totally reasonable. It just seems like it's good in so many decks.
Yeah. I think Fable. I think Bankbuster. We might see some random thing that nobody even thought of. Honestly, Fading Hope might get it. I don't know.
Make disappear.
There's a few. And that's the thing. I'm thinking about ubiquity. What are people using constantly? What is the World Championship decks? What are people pushing? Make disappear is very effective. Emperor, that's give or take. I mean, Emperor telegraphs itself from a mile away.
Yeah, and I think Emperor needs to, like, how do I say it? It's almost like a necessary evil to some decks,
I guess.
To make it so that, like, you're not just pressing spacebar every turn and just attacking all, and it makes you think.
I mean, if you have 2 white mana and you did nothing last turn, I know what you're doing. If you have four mana open and 2 of them are white and you didn't play, I know what you're doing. I know what's going to happen. I get it.
If you're getting priority during my turn, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So that's completely understandable. I don't know if that card needs to be banned though. I think that card.
So I want to throw out my crazy idea that I've been saying what needs to happen. I think they should bring back a limited list where you can only put one of them on there. I don't think that they're going to do it, but that's my pie in the sky thing. If they say we're banning, but also we're bringing on a new list, it's called limited or restricted, not limited. Sorry, it's the restricted list. You can have one of them in your deck. You can have one invoke. You can have one Bankbuster. You can have one, Mirror Breaker. So you can't rely on it as your end game card, as your finisher that's just going to win you the game. It doesn't, and there's the upside and downside. If you've bought paper ones, you can still use some of them. You don't have to get rid of all of them. They're not banned permanently. They're still in the game. They don't have to refund. They probably won't even have to refund wild cards in the game because say, no, you still use the other one formats and we didn't get rid of it completely. It's limited now. It's, you can still put invoke in there. You just can't put 4. You can put 1, so 3 of them are useless, but oh well. I don't know if they're ever going to do that. I think that that's kind of my pie in the sky dream. But I feel like
the R stands for when they call it BNR, banned and restricted.
Yeah, because they used to do restricted.
Okay.
I think they still do it in some formats.
I think you're right. I think some formats allow one ofs.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, cards. BNR, it's banned and restricted. So let me look it up here. Who still has a restricted list? Restricted,
like Legacy or something like that. Perhaps?
Only the Vintage format uses a restricted
Vintage.
List.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Honestly, it exists in the game. Maybe say is restricted. You could, like, for example, here's some good ones. Demonic Tutor, all the Moxes are all restricted in Vintage. Tolarian Academy, Soul Ring, Necropotence, all these crazy ones, Lotus Petal, Black Lotus, in case you want to play your $250,000 card in your tournament.
I guess Brawl kind of has restricted too. It's just like everything's restricted, but
basically, and I think people would be
Commander.
Yeah, basically. And well, that's the thing is that people would understand it. Oh, I can only play one of these, like Commander.
Yeah.
So I feel like people might be more they might be more receptive to being like, all right, well, we're doing this hey, it's kind of like Commander, because some stuff you can only play one of. Like, I don't know, maybe
Mhm.
that's a reach across the aisle of the Commander players, like saying, look, it's, you know what this is, right? Yeah, you like that? Yeah. Shh,
I
yeah,
could
come
see
here,
them
play. Yeah.
also. I could see him also using another format as a guinea pig for it
Yeah.
in case it like completely fucks up standard. You know what I mean? Not to
Mhm.
say it's a bad idea or anything, but in case it ends up not going well or people end up hating it, they might do it in like another format in constructed just
Mm.
to try it and see how people respond to it. And if it has good reception, then maybe they would apply it to others. But I don't know if if I could see see them doing it to their freaking cash cow. Because standard's their cash cow. That's their
Yeah.
residual. That's their residual income.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I know they don't want to piss off too many people. So we'll have to see. I'm very interested. Like we were saying, May 29th, that's going to be a really interesting day for all of
Yeah.
us, for the Magic community. It's going to be somewhat defining for what formats people are going to be playing going
Oh yeah,
forward.
absolutely. This is the
It's
future. This is going to
incredibly
be the
relevant.
future. Yeah. This is going to be the future here. It's going to be crazy. Yeah, I don't know what, if there's going to be creators leaving the standard scene. If people are going to be that upset. Here's the thing, and I think that people are going to be upset and people are going to cry, and I don't think you can rule by Twitter fiat either, because people are going to get on there and absolutely, no matter what they do, if they said we're doing nothing, people would be bad. If they said we're doing everything, people would be mad. You
Yeah,
know, I think is, you just have to kind of do it and do it with conviction. Like you said, just stick with it, just hold out,
yeah, yeah,
um
yeah. Just stick with it and just wait. Wait. Like people always say, it's like a jumping to conclusions. Like, don't fully make your decision on it until you really see what, like, you get the full picture of what's going on, like almost like a hear both sides of the story kind of
mhm.
thing. Don't be completely reactionary to just one thing that you hear and have I don't want to call everyone irrational, but don't have like a like
Knee
a
jerk.
response. Yeah, these knee jerk reactions. Don't have a response to it solely based on emotion and how what hearing something made you feel. Think about it. Think about what you would need for this to truly negatively impact you, or for you to, or what could happen still that would make this okay. And for me, what can make it okay is banning the right cards, or just and making sure that you don't ban the wrong cards. Because last time they banned something that was near and dear to my heart.
Mm.
So don't ban the wrong cards, and if you're going to ban something, ban the right cards. And everybody's version of that is different. I get it. People are going to say, "Oh, Fable can stay, Invoke's got to go." Oh no, Invoke can stay, Fable's got to go. Oh no, Bankbuster and Fable got to go. Bankbuster and Invoke got to go. All three of them got to go. There's infinite versions of that with all cards that people don't like, and I get it. But that's for me. It's what is the best way for them to handle it.
Mhm.
That and it's not going to be. I don't think they're going to do it in a way that says it pleases the most people. They're going to make the decision off of their version of what makes the game fair to play and what allows for the most diverse set of archetypes to be in the game.
Mhm.
And I know in Alchemy they have, which they don't really ban, but they've rebalanced, and there was a card, Cabaretti Revels, and it
Mhm.
used to only have one red in the cost, and now they made it 2 red, so that you would have to go more towards red if you wanted to be able to cast it. They wanted to make it harder to cast.
Mhm.
That was their way of fixing it, quote unquote, which was still, it was still kind of broken after that anyway.
Yeah.
But still, it's like not really played that much.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um, and what people were doing is they were splashing red to play that card. Well, what does everybody do for Fable? Splash
Mhm.
red. Mono black splashes red.
Mhm.
Uh, Dimir splashes red, and now it's Grixis.
Now it's great, and that's where you get the Grixis creep.
Yeah.
Everything becomes Grixis,
and that's where Grixis really became so crazy. That's where Rakdos became so crazy. So that's definitely a thing. And then your mono green deck. Oh well, now you splash. Now it's Gruul because you want to have Fable. You want to copy your strong creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Now you play Boros because you want to copy your what's that one? Your Sanctuary Warden. You want to copy your Sarah Paragons. You want to copy whatever,
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. You have all these powerful non-legendary creatures that, oh, well, you only need one red to cast that, and you're going to get treasure tokens out of it anyway, so you're going to replace the mana, and, now you get this and you get that. And now you have Izzet, you copy your Haughty Djinn, you copy your Tolarian Terror. There's good cards in every color to copy with Fable, and it literally makes decks that are already good splash red to make them like infinitely good, and everyone is splashing. So that was happening in Alchemy, and that's when they nixed a card. Mm-hmm. So does that mean that we're gonna, maybe we see that with Fable, because it's you can't just splash black to cast and invoke Despair.
No, it's too hard, and that's the thing. it's not as ubiquitous. Like, it's not easy. It was even hard to cast it in Rakdos. Rakdos is the easiest to cash it in because you get the treasure and you can do it. Yeah. But like, you can't splash it in mono white. Like, no, you can't splash. You can splash it maybe in green. Can't even really do Dimir. That's not easy to do.
You can't really even play, like, in terms of like the law of averages with drawing proper mana. You can't really even play Wandering Emperor and Invoke Despair in the same deck.
No, it's a very big spread.
It turns into one or the other, and you might get stuck.
And you know what you can play in every deck?
Fable,
Bankbuster,
and Bankbuster.
Yep. Bankbuster gonna get it.
Yep.
Bankbuster is absolutely gonna get it. That's my number one. The more I think about it, I feel like the fact that you can get so much card advantage out of that guy is just.
It is kind of. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of ridiculous.
You just get so much card advantage, dude. The fact that you can start drawing an extra card every single turn for 3 turns, and you get a 4. Like, come on,
It's like, oh, I can keep this 1-lander now, or I can keep this 2-lander that I shouldn't have ever kept, but I have Bankbuster, so I'm allowed to keep
I have Bankbuster, so I can do it. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
I only dropped this 3/1, or I put down these tokens or whatever. Well, now I have a 4/4 that I can block with, and it's a free block card.
Yeah, maybe that's their way of having an unmitigatedly terrible shuffler on Arena, is having Bankbuster. Oh, should we fix the shuffler? Nah, man, just print Bankbuster. It's cool. It'll be fine. And then we'll just never ban it. And then we'll extend standard because we still can't fix the shuffler.
So at the end of the day, the standard extension, I think it took a lot of people by surprise. I was pretty shocked at first. I think
there's some shock value to it for sure.
I think they see there's a problem, but I think they're kind of solving it in the wrong way. I don't think that. So I got to quote your famous tweet, what we were talking about. You tweeted out, we need to ban Fable, the Fable and Mirror Breaker. It's broken. And Wizards come back with, best I can do is have it around for another year.
And it has the guy on Pawn Stars.
Yeah, it has the Pawn Star guys. I'll put it up in the video. It's like,
okay.
What's that it just does not seem to address the issue. I think they're addressing the issue of paper play, where people don't want to invest in the cards. But if you're doing that, are you really addressing the issue, or are you trying to make more money?
Well, and it seems, what's the word? Like, it doesn't line up properly, because you're talking about doing that in, for paper players.
Mm-hmm.
But what are you really doing for paper standard as a whole?
Yeah.
You're still removing it from competitive formats. Yeah, your most recent Pro Tour I think your last 2 Pro Tours were standard, but now they're not going to be, from what I understand. You don't have standard. You don't have ways to play standard in paper to qualify for a Pro Tour. Not like all across the map, literally the map, like the U.S. and other countries. You mostly qualify in limited or sealed, Pioneer, Modern. Those are the main formats to play to qualify for like to be able to try to get on the Pro Tour. And if you're not gonna make a push for standard to be involved in that, it feels a little weird, if you know what I mean, because you're not actually like trying to make it a quote unquote premier competition format, but you're making a decision that would set it up to be that. And this is where I talk about how they handle it going forward. That's another point. Are you going to make standard competitive in paper? Are you going to have a standard events on Arena where people can qualify for the Arena Championship, the Pro Tour? Are you going to bring back Pro Tour invites to standard that you took away when you wanted to go back to paper? Or can you just give Pro Tour invites or our regional qualifier invites to regional to the regional championship qualifiers? To like, are you going to give those give the standard ones back to the stores? But even so, some of these stores abandoned it in standard. They said, no, we don't even want to do it. Some of the LGSs like just migrated to Pioneer and Modern for it. They did, like a lot of the ones like the LGS near me that mainly does like Pioneer and Modern RCQs, when they do it, they said they used to have standard and nobody showed up, so they changed to Pioneer, and okay, now people show up. All right, well, how are you gonna get people in the seats for standard? You got to give them a reason to play it, and I get it. Extending it another year is the first step, but you still have to have that path to becoming a professional Magic player, or just competitive Magic path in general. It has to go in some capacity, or at least be able to go in a capacity through standard. And if it doesn't, then why do you call it a premier format, and why are you extending it and saying it's for people in paper when you're not doing anything else to make it really pop in paper? Because the last year to 18 months, you've discouraged it in paper. That's the real question. It needs to be more than just an extra year. You need to keep going, and you need to double down on that shit. And that's why I talk about this is the beginning of these changes, but what's going to happen going forward? It needs to be more than just an extra year. It needs to be the right bands. It needs to be the right, whatever, the right non-bands, and it needs to be Arena managing a format. And it doesn't even have to all be competitive. Just have a way to have standard be fun, and that is the start of it. You can have a standard night at an LGS now and have people not feel like priced out of it. Exactly. That's fine, and maybe you start with that, and that's how you garner the interest to say, hey, let's raise the stakes a little bit. Let's put in $30 now instead of 5 or 10. Let's try to qualify. Let's try to be fucking professionals.
I also was just thinking, they've got to print some cheaper bangers, man. They got to print some really, really critical. And I think they've been doing that. They've been printing some real, half the set can't be fucking draft draws. It can't be just garbage that you would only play never in a draft or limited or sealed. You've got to get some cheaper cards out there that, oh, well, this is really good in standard. Well, it's an uncommon, so it's out there, but it's almost like essential. Like it's a backbone card, because, if every card relies on Sheldred and Sheldred's $60, a young audience, if you're 16, you can't afford that. You wanted to get into standard. Oh, well, this standard deck is, and that's the thing with EDH. You can build that EDH deck and you can use it functionally forever. If 2 years from now, hey, this deck I just bought for $500 or $600 or $700 or $1,000 or whatever, nobody can afford that. Well, people can, but not who you're trying to court, not across the world in LGSs and stuff like that. So,
well, yeah, and I get it with like Pioneer when I'm doing these RCQs. Like I'm actually going to be borrowing cards from people because I'm not. They're like, oh, well, don't go out and buy, you know, all these cards for this $800 deck. You know, we're going to get your list together, help you get your list together. I have like half the cards, but some of them are like pretty expensive, and I'll probably only use them when I'm trying to qualify in the Pioneer format, and I won't get to play them much outside of that. So I'm going to be buying them for to use a couple times if I do buy them. So I'm trying to like avoid that, and you know, but that is part of it. One of my biggest discouragements to playing Pioneer and Modern was the price. You know, Standard you can get a good deck for 300, so yeah, I get it. But yeah, like you were talking about the kids, these 16-year-old kids can't afford it, and their parents can't always afford it either. I remember I was 8 years old trying to convince my mom to buy me my first pre-con Magic deck in Odyssey.
Yeah,
I was 8 years old. You know how many times I had to bug her when we went to the mall just to get her to buy me that one deck that at the time was probably like, dude, back then that was the year 2000. That was probably like $13.
I remember seeing.
You know how hard it was. You know how hard it was to get her to spend $13 on those cards for me.
Oh yeah,
could you imagine like some of the decks these days?
I'll tell you.
You know
I saw a Black Lotus for like $700 for sale in the card store in the early '90s.
Oh wow!
And how do you tell your parents, hey, you should buy? They see that $700 card and the other guy's got under the case. You should buy that. It's the most it's the most expensive,
most valuable card in Magic the Gathering. Yeah. Well, and that's like you know, like I know like actually like before, well actually like when I was in school, not a lot of I always liked Magic. I thought the art was beautiful, and I thought like things looked more real, and I thought that was really cool. But like the kids that were in my school didn't really play Magic. They did like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh. You know what I mean? Like in terms of people who were my age as children. So like yeah, could you imagine if like we, you know, our parents, you know, helped us keep our first edition Charizard in pristine condition? Do you know what I mean?
I've told this story. Well, Gus Johnson had a really good one about that, how we treated our cards in middle school, and the guy's eating Cheetos. His brother's eating Cheetos. He's like, hey, look, I got one of those little shiny Charizards again. He's like, another one. He's like, oh, let me see it. And he like sucks his fingers. He's like, oh yeah, dude. Oh wow, this is. He's like, well, I have a shiny Charizard too. How are we gonna tell the difference? He goes, I'll just bend the corner of mine so we know this one's mine. Yeah.
Oh, and I think mine's gonna have a little more Cheeto dust on it.
Yeah. Too. I told you my. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I told it a million times. My cousin who got me into Magic in '94, he had tons of alpha and beta cards, including like Taigas, Underground Sea, Tropical Island, some of the original double lands and stuff like that. His mom gave them all away when he went to college.
Yeah. Oh my god, it hurts, dude.
Yeah.
I just asked my parents. They're cleaning out their garage right now, and I was like, my brother and I, because my brother dabbles in Magic a little bit too. I taught him how to play, of course, but he played with me. He was like my guinea pig for trying out the cards when I was like 8 years old and trying to learn how to play. So he kind of has been around it since he was like a young kid as well, just because of me. We asked them, my parents, because they're like cleaning out their garage, like, hey, did you ever find any like old Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon cards? Because we kind of don't really remember what we had, but you might have like a few $1,000s just like sitting in your garage, and like if you found it, that would be cool if you let us know. You know what I mean?
Of course.
But that leads me to another funny one, and maybe this is going to be like maybe some foreshadowing. It won't affect Standard, but Lord of the Rings is coming.
Oh no.
And people always ask me, they're like, well, what do you know, who do you think's going to get the One Ring card? And I always say it's yeah. Well, I don't know if I see myself buying any Lord of the Rings packs personally, but I always like I think this is like the most ironic scenario and like poetic justice almost for me in a way. It's gonna be some kid who convinces his mom to buy him a booster pack at Target. And he's
Yeah.
gonna take it home and not even be able to read it probably and like sneeze on it. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
he's
You know what I mean?
he's gonna not know what it is and put it in he's gonna put it in his side table drawer.
Yeah.
There's two
It's gonna
options.
sit there.
That's gonna happen, or someone's gonna buy up a bunch of boxes like what is the guy in Alpha Investments, and it's gonna sit in a box for 20 years.
And not actually get opened.
And never get opened. Yeah. Either that or no one's gonna find it. So
that's true. That's true.
If I find it, I'm selling it. All that collector, you give me, I'm buying a house with it.
I think that there are like people are already putting up offers.
Yeah, people are already.
I think I saw like 750 grand or something like that.
I don't know if it got that high. There was one guy who said, I'll fly you to New Zealand. We can throw it in a volcano together.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. So he'll pay you $50,000 to do that.
And then he kicks you into the volcano and takes the ring.
Give me your hand. So he goes, no, it's actually mine, and then he throws you in. Yeah, that's terrible. So yeah, it's gonna be pretty weird. It's gonna be pretty gnarly. But I mean, standard, for better for worse, something is coming. We'll update you as we go forward. We'll update you on what happens.
Things pretty much happening.
Covered everything that's going on. We'll probably do one after. We'll be building decks. We'll be shuffling and breaking necks. We got to get another interview on here too.
We need another interview in there. We do still owe them the lore episode too, because I know
we do.
That's what we were talking about doing, and then Wizards threw this at us, so we had to kind of roll with that and take that as it came to us. So
yeah,
we do have to do a lore. So
they wanted dragons. I think they voted on. Let's see.
Yeah, dragons. Yeah, dragon lore.
People wanted dragon lore. Yeah, definitely people wanted dragon lore. So we're gonna have to do that sometime soon too. So yeah, if you want to get on those voting, absolutely go to patreon.com/theblackcouncil. Join us. You can vote on something coming up. And of course, I'm Jay Villain at twitch.tv/thatvillainj. We have Numbskull here, twitch.tv/Numbskull. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. What do you think? We want to hear in the state, and we want to hear in the chat. We want to hear in the comics. What do you think is going to happen to Standard? What are your predictions? What are your band predictions? Let's get some band predictions down there and see what's really going on. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Let us know about what your band predictions are. And I think we're going to call this meeting, the Black Council, to the close. Good night, everyone, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Take care, guys.